Okay. Go ahead.
gathering my thoughts. This is exactly why you need training on which one to use when.
Yeah.
And when to share a feedback report like this. So I am not a huge fan of sharing the narrative report based on the P.A.P.I because it is based on what are you interested in versus this is your personality. And I'm very clear about that.
But I wanted to take this because I think you really have to kind of test drive things and be constructively critical. When you put it in that light, if I were to explain it in layman's terms, I am constantly in a position where I naturally have to take the lead. I've always been the person in the room when I'll hold back for like 5-10 minutes, and then everybody's sitting around not willing to take the lead. I will take the lead. It's just in my nature. I can't. And if I have something to say, I'll say it. That's just the way I'm built. But if I were to interpret why does the I question that, I would probably say the reason it questions this and why some of that is ranked lower is because sometimes those of us who do it a lot wish we had to do it less, which makes
there are more important things to you than taking the lead.
Yeah. So for me, I don't feel the need to stand on stage because I'm constantly standing on stage. Okay. So okay. There's some other really cool reports that you get out of psychology as well.
I think, Mark, what you're highlighting is really important, and this is for the consultants out there using psychometric tests and even companies. Be a little bit more critical by just sending out reports without an ear to interpret it. It needs to be understood by the user. And sometimes, and I've seen it often, where reports get sent out in my years of experience here in South Africa as well, that aren't very clear. The person sits there with a report and goes, oh, is there something wrong with me, and can't talk to anyone about that. And that makes me not just nervous, but other things as well. So that there needs to be a bridge, because it does have impact. And especially people that are a little bit self-critical or quite tough on themselves, they might then start judging things that they shouldn't, and then there's adverse impact, and that's something we should avoid at all times.
But what you kind of do to kind of underline what you've said is those are just kind of the superficial thing. I think a lot of people are always looking for the quick fix. They want to see a graphic, they want to see a spider diagram, and then they want to make their assumptions. And what I liked about your approach is there's a bunch of other reports that are printed out. You have a shorter report, which is the Big Five report, which is this one right here. What I thought was great is the two following ones, which was the interview guide, okay, which I think is brilliant because it really breaks down. First of all, I like the fact that in every one of these documents, there's called an introduction. As an American, I would say it's a disclaimer, a legal disclaimer.
We're not responsible.
This report might cause nausea, and no. It kind of gives you a guideline on what you need, how you need to understand it or read it. But for example, if we're looking at the interview guide, it starts off with an interview guidance, beginning of the interview, during the interview, after the interview, which I think is brilliant. And then it has on the different areas, for example, openness to ideas. It gives you the score, right? I'm going to show this. Nobody's going to be able to see this in great detail, which is fine. We don't want to give all the magic away. We just want to kind of give the so you have the different areas, and then you have interview questions. I'm like, how brilliant is that? They actually give you the questions. I think a lot of interviewers who do this can probably figure out the questions themselves. But if you're new to this, it gives you some interview questions to start off with. And then I thought what was also brilliant, second side, right, is this part right here where it says, listen, we all know what to assume means. To assume means to make an ass out of you and me. And to avoid that thing, what it does on the backside of the scoring, it gives you positive indicators or negative indicators, which was kind of what we were talking about, right? So what were we looking at here so that the listener can kind of figure it out? If we're talking about openness to ideas, right? So I have for focuses on practicalities, wary of new ideas, evaluates ideas on their merit. So I have my score kind of in the middle. And then it has both positive potential indicators and negative ones, right? So one is open to new suggestions and approaches, dismisses new suggestions and approaches. And it doesn't automatically say what it is, but it gives the interviewer an opportunity to ask some questions and take some notes. Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, I think what makes we call it the CBIC, the competency-based interview guide, and it's based on the P.A.P.I, which means that it gives the interviewer the ability to say, you have described yourself as with a strong preference of working with others. Can you give me an example of? So you gave me this information, now prove that, or give me an example of that. So the interview questions are a little bit more specific. And then we have the complete creativity and freedom to build development and interview guides for companies based on their competency frameworks, their values, their leadership, etc. And then we even change the questions based on exactly what they're looking for.